Good evening, everyone. My thesis is about music therapy and music translation in the context of physiological disorders. Music therapy is a relational method between patient and therapist using nonverbal communication, a process to facilitate communication and the learning processes, and other relevant therapeutic goals. The aim of music therapy is to produce changes in a person's emotional or physical health. Music therapy is applied in the treatment of dyslexia, where in several cases children engaged in playing an instrument have shown improvement in reading and writing accuracy in a phonetic segmentation and fusion tests. It is also applied to aphasia, which is a neurological condition in which an individual loses the ability to understand, compose structure, or repeat language due to injury such as stroke to the brain. Music therapy has proven to be revolutionary for their rehabilitation. This technique is also applied to children with Down syndrome, where music therapy can be combined with physicomotor and speech therapy techniques. This approach improves body awareness, the development of perception, and time organization and verbalization. Music therapy is also applied to patients suffering from Alzheimer's disease who present a gradual loss of nesting function, orientation, short-term memory, and cognitive disorders. During sessions, patients sing famous songs which they probably already know but have no memory of, with the aim of developing auditory recognition. It is also applied to patients with autism, who are characterized by a difficulty in social interaction, which manifests itself through abnormal nonverbal behavior, the inability to develop developmentally appropriate relationships with peers, and a lack of emotional reciprocity, which causes isolation from peers. Music therapy allows the outside world to enter into communication with autistic child, encouraging the beginning of a process of openness. Thanks to the invaluable help of my lecturer, Professor Adriana Biziri, I managed to get in touch with the contact person of the Foundation I Bambini delle Fate, Michela Parati, who introduced me to the mother of an autistic child, Mrs. Raffaella. Her son, Davide, is 15 years old and has an average cognitive level. He is a boy with a verbal autism spectrum. And with his mother, we went over Davide's first years of life, in which he showed the first signs of autism, such as no longer answering when called, ceasing to smile, and total empathy shown towards his parents. Davide has been playing the piano since he was 8 years old, with music teacher and expert music therapist Davide Lucchesi, whom I had the honor of interviewing. For Davide, the piano is now his emotional refuge when he feels sad or emotionally unstable. Speaking with the music therapist Davide Lucchesi, I learned that many children with low cognitive and nonverbal levels, after several sessions of music therapy, were able to formulate correct sentences, maintaining direct visual context, and above all, were able to have direct physical contact. Another key point to my thesis is the treatment of music translation at the level of language learning in schools, but also in the treatment of physiological disorders. And also thanks to the interview with Mrs. Raffaella, I was able to see how Davide, at the age of 3, was able to recognize or say sentences thanks to the alphabet songs, which were translated for him by his mother and then repeated by him. At school, they always made us translate the lyrics of a foreign language in order to learn new terms through the translation done by us. From then on, the brain will always tend to associate the melody of that particular song with the translation of the word or phrase. Music translation in Italy came into vogue, especially in the 50s or 60s, where great artists such as Gianni Morandi, Vasco Rossi, or Raffaella Carrà readapted international songs into Italian, making the mistake, however, of calling them translation, but they cannot be defined such as they do not respect the parameters and the rules of translation theory. The figure of the professional translation caught on later in the music industry And we can see this phenomenon, especially in musical or Disney songs. It is important that these songs are always translated, so as to be able to send the correct message even to those who not know the source language. Translation on the web done by amateurs and not professionals are increasingly undermining the figure of the translator, who is instead indispensable. Music translation does nothing but bring the different cultures and languages closer together, where they are not understood. In conclusion, my thesis aims to substantiate the theory that music really does help on the scientific level. There is a very strong evidence reporting marked improvements in coma patients through the use of music, and as well for cancer patients. Music is a refuge for many, and many times also the voice of those who cannot put into words what they feel.